At this time, I would like to invite all of the dispatchers, police officers, and detectives up to stand in front of the dais, please. You're welcome to join them on this side either now or to present the certificates. Your choice. They're more uncomfortable in this setting than they were the morning we're about to speak about. Okay, thank you. Aurora, Columbine, Charleston, Sandy Hook, Orlando, Tucson, and just last week, Fort Lauderdale, and so many others. Our first thought when we hear this long list of cities is not always about how great these communities are, but about the common tragedy they have all experienced. An active shooter in their churches, their schools, and in their shopping areas. For years, the potential of an active shooter incident is something public safety professionals have thought about, talked about, trained and equipped for, while we pray it never happens in our city. And due to a citizen who saw something and said something, and the immediate and effective response of the men and women standing before you today, it did not happen in Prescott. You probably all heard the story through media accounts, but I'd like to read the citation because the details are important. On December 3rd, 2016, the Prescott Regional Communications Center received a 911 call from Walmart located at 3050 East State Route 69. The store manager reported that a current employee of the store had a conflict with her manager earlier that morning and had returned with a rifle. Prescott Regional Communications Center dispatchers attempted to gather information from the store manager to assist responding officers. They maintained radio contact with the officers and updated them as necessary to facilitate their response. The dispatch supervisor ensured information was being gathered and disseminated as needed, and as such, officers arrived on scene really quickly, finding a rapidly unfolding and dynamic incident. Responding officers possessing limited information regarding the location of the suspect with the rifle deployed to the exterior of the store and searched the parking lot for the suspect. In further attempt to locate the suspect, other officers utilized the store's camera system and located the suspect outside the store, relaying that information to the officers on the exterior. Officers immediately contacted the suspect and gave verbal commands to show her hands. The suspect repeatedly screamed, "Shoot me, and I want to die." While officers held lethal coverage on the suspect and continued to give verbal commands to keep her hands up, the suspect placed her hands in her pockets and refused to obey the officers' commands. Officers continued verbal negotiation with the suspect and were ultimately able to take her into custody without injury to her or the officers. The entire time this took place, the suspect made statements about wanting to die and begged the officers to shoot her. Officers located a rifle outside the store along with a knife and instruments to use to light a fire. The suspect admitted to the officers she became upset with store employees, so she went home and retrieved the weapons. The suspect said she returned to the store intent on killing employees and customers inside the store. The suspect's inability to get the rifle to operate properly caused her to hide behind the store, and she was formulating her next plan to cause harm when confronted by the officers. Members of the investigative section were called out to assist the Operations Bureau with collecting evidence, interviewing the suspect, victims, and witnesses, and eventually served a search warrant on her home where additional evidence was recovered. detectives worked throughout the day to make certain a strong case was established against the suspect in order to ensure successful prosecution for these serious crimes. The performance of the dispatchers, officers, and detectives involved in this incident were extraordinary and prevented certain tragedy. On behalf of the Prescott Police Department, I commend each of you for your collective effort in maintaining a calm demeanor, exhibiting excellent teamwork, utilizing outstanding tactics without resorting to the use of lethal force, and embracing our core values of integrity, courage, accountability, respect, and excellence. I couldn't be prouder to stand here today to recognize each of you for what you did for all of us that day. Congratulations. Police Officer Matt Medina. Officer Andrew Thatcher. Officer David Holmes. This one's easy. Officer Jessica Hughes. Thank you. Officer Troy Crawford. Dispatcher Jennifer Bass. Dispatch Supervisor Vivian Markov. Dispatcher Desiree Davis. Eventually, John. Dispatcher Yasmin Lee. Last but not least, Detective John Hanna. I want to say that this event occurred on the day of the Christmas parade. So everybody had somewhere that they wanted to be. Some of these officers were getting off shift, and they had to rearrange their plans completely because of this event. And as I said before, I couldn't be prouder of what they did that day. You should all be proud of what these men and women were able to prevent in terms of tragedy that would have affected all of us in the city of Prescott. So thank you.
Mr. YouTube. Good job. We need you.